Hello and welcome. I'm aware it's been a while since I previously recorded. Sometimes it feels like things take on their own momentum. When doing an activity, sometimes momentum can be built and a habit is formed. And often it's always on the mind. There'll be a thought of when this activity will happen again. And it will be very present on the surface. And then the same happens when there is a gap, when there is an absence, and there is less thoughts, and it takes on its own momentum where something is not done as it used to be. Maybe there's a depth to this, maybe there's a deeper understanding for the momentum of things. But a deeper question arises is the source of all things that are done. Often it's this insight is covered up. Often we are so attached with the mind, the answer is always I decided to do it. Me, myself. But then you can take a step back and think, okay, well, in order for me to do an activity there, usually it's a thought arises, and then, I need to do this, or I would like to do this. Where does that thought come from? Is that your thought? And quite quickly we can reach a great depth of almost a mystery of the world. And it's a mystery where only the mind wants the answers. Because when you are in the flow of life where things are just happening, thoughts are arising, there's activity happening. If you were to take your day and all of the activities there, that is all part of life, just unfolding. We may believe that, I shaped my day, or I decided to do this, or I decided not to do that. But when you inquire on that, then it's quickly revealed that, of course, there is no you to decide. There is just life flowing. But our mind is almost like a radar. It's constantly trying to figure things out, put things together, take ownership of things. It's part of its own sustainability to say, I did this, or the reason for this happening is because of me. As part of its own, to keep itself alive, it needs to have that identity. The identity of me. Me and this body, me and this mind. Me and my memories, my achievements. Me and my intelligence, my limited mind intelligence. So even the recording of this episode, it's not, in some ways, it's the recording is just simply happening at this time, in this moment. And it couldn't have happened any earlier, and it couldn't have happened any later. It's just the unfolding of this moment. And when the next recording happens, no matter how many hours, days, weeks, months pass, it will happen at the perfect moment again. And for me, perhaps this is a letting go. Perhaps the unpleasant thoughts of, I should have recorded earlier, or I wanted to record earlier. I wanted to keep some momentum. I wanted to get on to this next book. I didn't want those listening to have to wait or wonder, it's been a while since I've heard a recording. What's happening here? All of this, you can let go of that, and it's the letting go is the process of deepening. The unpleasant thoughts are almost there as a service to help you let go, to help reveal, the primary purpose, the only ultimate importance, which is the present moment. So during the last few weeks, my mood has continued to become low, and low meaning depression, thoughts of where everything has become very difficult to do. There hasn't been much of an urge to record, or perhaps the urge was there, but the energy wasn't there, and I didn't have almost the energy to push myself to record. So I can feel this heaviness here. I guess, just so we all have a common understanding, I can label this, in my experience, as depression, but I'm also aware of labels adding to identity as well. So it's said that, life is there to challenge us. Eckhart mentions life is there to awaken us, to challenge us. So the heaviness of the thoughts I have, the heaviness of the mood, it's not a personal pain, it's not a personal depression in some ways, where it's, why do I have to be depressed, or why is it me who's going through this? It's almost in one stroke, just brushing all of that away and realizing the reality. Yes, there is a heaviness here. There is some dark thoughts arising from this heaviness. There is a lack of energy to do certain activities, such as, cleaning, going out for exercise, things that perhaps may be beneficial for me. And it's just simply noting this. There's no heavy analysis. There's just being aware in this moment of what is, and for me what is a heavy energy that is there. And there is a noticing of the mind, perhaps wanting to indulge in this energy, wanting to, perhaps wanting more of this energy as well. And we talk about the ego, it's the way it survives is it feeds off of pain. Eckhart mentions, the pain body, and it's something we'll come across in this, in a new earth, which I will begin to read today. So I won't go into too much about it now. But in some ways the pain shows us where perhaps we are not free, or we are not at ease. Perhaps each of us can probably take an area of our life or a certain situation where you thought, oh yes, I'm at ease in this moment. Perhaps it's when you formally sit and meditate, take some time to just to be present. Perhaps it's in a certain life situation where presence arises and you're very connected. But then there may be other areas where it's extremely painful in life, whether it's dealing with a certain person or dealing with a certain life situation or even a thought. There could be an ongoing thought perhaps of a certain area of money, or a thought about loneliness. That could be a very heavy cluster of thoughts there that's always there. So perhaps when these painful areas arise or are noticed, perhaps there can be some acknowledgement there of the nature of this. And the nature of it is not to cause personal pain, and it's not to be taken personally. Perhaps the pain can be welcomed, but not in a way where you're joyously saying, yes, there is pain here, but welcomed in, oh, that's what is in this moment. So you're not welcoming the pain, you're welcoming the present moment. Whether there's pain there or there's pleasure, you are still in that place of openness. Maybe that's a better word to use, openness. So you're not just opening yourself to joy and pleasure, and pleasure in a sensory forms, but you're open also to pain. So perhaps it's a good time to begin reading. So for those of you who are fairly new to listening here, I use this podcast to also read books I haven't previously read, or maybe at some point I'll reread certain books, but it's a way of helping myself by recording and reading and sharing these pointings from the book. It encourages me to read more than if I was just to read on my own. So, and it's a bonus if anyone listening benefits from what is being read as well. So the book I'm going to begin is called A New Earth, and it's by a spiritual teacher called Eckhart Tolle. Some people pronounce that Eckhart Tolle, and I think you can probably use both. I don't think he minds, but I'm used to the pronunciation of Tolle. And you can find various, of course I've mentioned him, many times, and probably primarily out of other teachers. I've mentioned Eckhart, but just in case nobody has come across his videos, you can find him on YouTube as well. He does have a channel, and in the YouTube description you can find details about his website where you can further look into his teachings. And this is his second book. His first book, which we've read in previous episodes, not in its entirety, but we have covered, is called The Power of Now. And I mentioned last week about the episodes with Oprah that Eckhart recorded. So if you were to search, maybe it's on YouTube, and I think it's on a podcast as well, where you can search, A New Earth, perhaps you can put in the keywords of Eckhart and Oprah, and Eckhart, provides some commentary on each chapter of the book. So there's a long episode where he discusses each chapter of the book. So that may be of interest to you as well, after reading each chapter, to visit that and listen to Eckhart, almost illustrating further about the chapter. And I'll be doing that myself. I have the chapters saved on my phone, so I'll be listening to that. And perhaps I'll read the blurb at the back. I'm aware it's often used as almost a selling tool to entice readers, but perhaps this will give, for those who have not come across his work, or perhaps are new to spirituality or the practice of being aware and being present, perhaps this will help summarize what we'll be reading. So it says at the back, prepare for an amazing journey where life gets better and better. I wonder who wrote this. Not sure if it was Eckhart, maybe it's somebody in the publishing. In today's rush, we all think too much, seek too much, want too much, and forget about the joy of just being. We worry about what people think of us. We compare ourselves with our friends, family, and neighbours, and deep down we worry we're not good enough. Eckhart Tolle will give you the confidence to let go of fear, anxiety, and the eternal quest for more. Read this book and you will stop defining your life and start living it with true openness and freedom. Stop searching for happiness and you'll realize where it is, in those moments and feelings that you can't put into words. Find out who you truly are and change your life for the better, forever. So that's the blurb at the back there. And it's strange because reading this blurb, it doesn't seem to, for those of you who've read or listened to his teachings, they don't seem to line up in that sense. But for those of people who are not familiar with the spiritual practices, perhaps it's more appealing for them because, a lot of these phrases I can imagine, will chime with that. About wanting your life to be better. Okay. So I've actually had this book for many, many years. Even before I knew who Eckhart was, I was recommended this book by a friend a long time ago, and so it's been sitting on my shelf for a number of years, and only when I came across Eckhart's teaching did I look at this book on my bookshelf and realize, that it wasn't just another, in some ways, self-help book, which I thought it was, a book on psychology or just, some self-help advice, but it was something much deeper. So chapter 1 is titled The Flowering of Human Consciousness. And there are section titles as well. So the section title we're reading is called Evocation. Earth, 114 million years ago, one morning just after sunrise, the first flower ever to appear on the planet opens up to receive the rays of the sun. Prior to this momentous event that heralds an evolutionary transformation in the life of plants, the planet had already been covered in vegetation for millions of years. The first flower probably did not survive for long, and flowers must have remained rare and isolated phenomena, since conditions were most likely not favourable for a widespread flowering to occur. One day, however, a critical threshold was reached, and suddenly there would have been an explosion of colour and scent all over the planet, if a perceiving consciousness had been there to witness it. Much later, those delicate and fragrant beings we call flowers would come to play an essential part in the evolution of consciousness of another species. Humans would increasingly be drawn to and fascinated by them. As the consciousness of human beings developed, flowers were most likely the first thing they came to value that had no utilitarian purpose for them, that is to say, was not linked in some way to survival. They provided inspiration to countless artists, poets, and mystics. Jesus tells us to contemplate the flowers and learn from them how to live. The Buddha is said to have given a silent sermon once, during which he held up a flower and gazed at it. After a while, one of those present, a monk called, try my best to pronounce this, Mahakasyapa, began to smile. He is said to have been the only one who had understood the sermon. According to legend, that smile, that is to say, realization, was handed down by 28 successive masters, and much later became the origin of Zen. Seeing beauty in a flower could awaken humans, however briefly, to the beauty that is an essential part of their own innermost being, their true nature. The first recognition of beauty was one of the most significant events in the evolution of human consciousness. The feelings of joy and love are intrinsically connected to that recognition. Without our fully realizing it, flowers would become for us an expression in form of that which is most high, most sacred, and ultimately formless within ourselves. Flowers, more fleeting, more ethereal, and more delicate than the plants out of which they emerged, would become like messengers from another realm, like a bridge between the world of physical forms and the formless. They not only had a scent that was delicate and pleasing to humans, but also brought a fragrance from the realm of spirit. Using the word enlightenment in a wider sense than the conventionally accepted one, we could look upon flowers as the enlightenment of plants. Any life form in any realm, mineral, vegetable, animal, or human, can be said to undergo enlightenment. It is, however, an extremely rare occurrence, since it is more than an evolutionary progression. It also implies a discontinuity in its development, a leap to an entirely different level of being, and most important, a lessening of materiality. What could be heavier and more impenetrable than a rock, the densest of all forms? And yet some rocks undergo a change in their molecular structure, turn into crystals, and so become transparent to the light. Some carbons under inconceivable heat and pressure turn into diamonds, and some heavy minerals in other precious stones. Most crawling reptilians, the most earthbound of all creatures, have remained unchanged for millions of years. Some, however, grew feathers and wings and turned into birds, thus defying the force of gravity that had held them for so long. They didn't become better at crawling or walking, but transcended crawling and walking entirely. Since time immemorial, flowers, crystals, precious stones, and birds have held special significance for the human spirit. Like all life forms, they are, of course, temporary manifestations of the underlying one life, one consciousness. Their special significance and the reason why humans feel such fascination for and affinity with them can be attributed to their ethereal quality. Once there is a certain degree of presence, of still and alert attention in human beings. I'll read that again. Once there is a certain degree of presence, of still and alert attention in human beings' perceptions, they can sense the divine life essence, the one indwelling consciousness or spirit in every creature, every life form, recognize it as one with their own essence, and so love it as themselves. Until this happens, however, most humans see only the outer forms, unaware of the inner essence, just as they are unaware of their own essence and identity only with their own physical and psychological form. In the case of a flower, a crystal, precious stone or bird, however, Even someone with little or no presence can occasionally sense that there is more there than the mere physical existence of that form, without knowing that this is the reason why he or she is drawn toward it, feels an affinity with it. Because of its ethereal nature, its form obscures the indwelling spirit to a lesser degree than is the case with other life forms. The exception to this are all newborn life forms, babies, puppies, kittens, lambs, and so on. They are fragile, delicate, not yet firmly established in materiality. An innocence, a sweetness and beauty that are not of this world still shine through them. They delight even relatively insensitive humans. So when you are alert and contemplate a flower, crystal, or bird without naming it mentally, it becomes a window for you into the formless. There is an inner opening, however slight, into the realm of spirit. This is why these three enlightened life forms have played such an important part in evolution of human consciousness since ancient times. Why, for example, the jewel in the lotus flower is a central symbol of Buddhism, and a white bird, the dove, signifies the Holy Spirit in Christianity. They have been preparing the ground for a more profound shift in planetary consciousness that is destined to take place in the human species. This is the spiritual awakening that we are beginning to witness now. Okay, so that's the end of that section, and I think I will pause it here at this moment. I feel a little bit tired, and so I will save the next section for another episode. But so that's just a small introductory look at the early stages of the evolution of human consciousness and consciousness itself. Okay. So perhaps before we go, or before I end the episode, we can just simply be present for a few moments. And perhaps we can just see what arises in us as well. Just simply a very quick check-in of where we are. Where we are with our energy, with our thoughts. And it's not, in a sense, to keep track and remember, but just simply be aware of what is in this moment. So what is in regards to what thoughts are arising, what feelings are there in the body, what physical sensations are there? Is there any pain? Is there any, perhaps there's some pleasure there, there's some relaxation in the body you can feel, or, pleasurable thoughts or sensations. So just for a minute or two, just to be in an alert awareness and just see what arises. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. I wish you well in this moment that we share, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Take care.